Chapter 15. Matt sat at his desk, phone to his ear, typing the warrant. "I'm on it," he told Joe, who said 4 officers were ready with Chief Wilson's okay. Matt had suggested plainclothes surveillance on the McKnight house. Joe was already ahead of him. In the affidavit, Matt included the Ed Black video and Reed McKnight's statements, though he doubted Reed was involved. He printed the paperwork and headed for the Vista Ridge courthouse. His usual judge was out, so he went to Judge Harriet Hargrove, a known hardliner. She refused to sign without hearing the Ed Black recording. Matt argued protocol and urgency, but she wouldn't budge. 90 minutes later, he returned with the audio. She listened, unimpressed. When he pressed, she looked ready to snap, but didn't. Cal Merrick's shadow loomed large. After a long pause, she signed, but restricted the search to exterior grounds. Matt took the warrant and left. Warrant in hand, Matt and Joe led a team of 4 uniformed officers up the concrete path to the McKnight home. Matt adjusted his badge on his belt, then knocked. After a moment, the door opened partway, held by a security chain. A woman peered through the gap, her eyes widening at the sight of the officers. "Mrs. McKnight?" Matt asked. "Yes?" "I'm Special Agent Barry with the Texas Bureau of Investigation, and this is Detective Foster with Vista Ridge PD. We have a search warrant for your property." Matt held up the folded document. "Would you mind removing the chain so we can speak properly?" The woman hesitated, then closed the door. There was the sound of the chain sliding, and the door reopened fully. Kay McKnight stood in the doorway, arms crossed over her chest. She was a small woman in her late 40s, with sandy blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore worn jeans and a faded blue t-shirt. "What's this about?" she asked, her gaze darting nervously between the officers in her yard. Matt handed her the warrant. "This gives us authorization to search the exterior of your property, Mrs. McKnight. You're welcome to read it." Kay unfolded the document, her eyes scanning the text. Kay's hands tightened on the paper. "My husband, Reed, he's not home. He's at his job. Penny is at school. We haven't done anything wrong." "Would you like to call your husband?" Matt suggested. She nodded quickly. "Yes, I need to call Reed." "We'll begin our search of the yard while you do that," Joe said. "The warrant only covers the exterior of your property. We won't be entering your home at this time." "I don't understand what you think you're going to find here," she said. "We're following up on information we've received, ma'am," Matt said. Kay stepped back into the house. "I'm calling my husband." As she retreated inside, Matt heard her fumbling for a phone. He turned to Joe. "Let's start with the backyard." The McKnight property stretched over an acre of land. Matt and Joe stood at the edge of the backyard, surveying the scene. To the left stood a weathered barn. Near the barn sat an old pickup truck, more oxidation than paint, sunk into the dirt like it had grown there. There was no fence along the sides, but there was a back fence consisting of a wire fence strung between cedar posts. Behind the house, a wooden table and chairs sat on a concrete patio. A charcoal grill stood near a stack of firewood, and a tidy vegetable garden lined the right side of the yard. "I'll take the left side," Matt said, nodding toward the barn and rusted truck. "You take the right." Joe nodded and moved off toward the garden area. They worked methodically, checking open spaces around the property. Matt circled the barn but didn't enter. Without interior authority in the warrant, it was off limits. The old pickup truck didn't offer much either. A quick inspection through the open windows showed a cracked dashboard, worn seats, and an empty cab stripped of anything useful. They met in the middle, both shaking their heads. "Nothing?" Matt asked. "Garden's just a garden," Joe replied. "Nothing!" Matt sighed. "Let's check the rear of the property." They made their way to the back where the fence separated the McKnight property from a large tract of undeveloped land. Joe stopped suddenly, pointing to a patch of earth some distance inside the fence line. "There. See it?" Matt stepped closer. The area, about 3 feet by 6 feet, showed signs of recent digging. The soil was darker than the surrounding ground, and though someone had scattered leaves over it, the disturbance was obvious when pointed out. "Good catch," Matt said. They exchanged a grim look. "You've got the honors," Matt said, stepping back. Joe raised an eyebrow. "Why me?" "You found it." With a resigned sigh, Joe pulled on a pair of latex gloves, and carefully began moving the earth from one end of the disturbed area. He worked slowly, removing handfuls of soil. 6 inches down, his hands revealed something pale against the dark earth. He brushed away more dirt, exposing what was unmistakably human skin. Joe immediately stopped digging and backed away. "We've got a body. We've got a serial killer on our hands," Matt said. "I thought the rule was 3 bodies before the killings are classified as serial." Matt thought back to Raymond's body posed in the motel room. "I might be jumping the gun, but let's assume this body is courtesy of the same killer. Raymond's body is not the killer's first murder. A killer works his way up to that scene. If what we saw in that motel room is this killer's starting point, then we are in deep shit." Joe stared at Matt without speaking. Matt was discussing excavation logistics with Joe when commotion near the house caught his attention. He looked up to see Reed McKnight arguing with a uniformed officer at the edge of the yard. The man's voice carried across the property, loud and confrontational. "He's yours," Joe said graciously. Matt grunted and stalked across the yard. As Matt approached, McKnight turned to face him, fists balled at his sides. Matt spoke first. "Mr. McKnight, you need to wait with your wife." "This is bullshit," McKnight growled, gesturing toward the officers scattered across his property. A vein pulsed visibly in his forehead. "You can't just come onto my land and start digging things up. You can wait with your wife, or you can wait in a jail cell. You pick." "What's going on back there?" McKnight demanded, pointing at Joe at the rear of the property. Matt reached for his cuffs. McKnight's eyes darted to the handcuffs, then back to Matt's face. He threw up his hands. "Fine, I'll wait." He turned and hurried toward the house. Matt looked at the uniformed cop who'd initially intercepted McKnight. "See that he stays put." The officer nodded. "Yes, sir." Matt watched as the crime scene technicians carefully worked around the gravesite. They photographed the scene from multiple angles before beginning the process of removing the soil. "How long you think the body's been here?" Joe asked. "Not long," Matt said. As the technicians exposed the body, a young female tech looked up with a grimace. "Male victim," she called out. "No obvious decomposition yet." They continued working, revealing more of the corpse. The tech nearest the head suddenly paused, her gloved hand hovering above the face. "The eyes are missing," she announced. Matt and Joe exchanged a look. "First Merrick's genitals, now this guy's eyes," Joe muttered. "What the hell are we dealing with?" Matt stepped closer and looked at the face. It was Ed Black, or what was left of him. "Anything besides the eyes missing?" Matt asked. The tech shrugged. "Hard to tell at this point." Another hour passed and the lead crime scene investigator approached them, clipboard in hand. "We're about finished with the body. The medical examiner's been notified and is en route. Should be here within 30 minutes. "Any obvious cause of death?" Matt asked. "Nothing visible so far," she replied. "No gunshot wounds, no obvious blunt force trauma to the exposed areas. We'll need the ME to determine that." Matt thanked her and pulled Joe aside. "Why the eyes?" Matt asked. Joe shook his head. "Trophy? Message? In Merrick's case, removing the genitals makes sense if this is about the rape allegations. But the eyes." "Witnesses," Matt said suddenly. "Merrick was the doer. Black was the witness." "Jesus," Joe muttered. 20 minutes later, a county vehicle pulled up to the property. The medical examiner had arrived. The sun had dipped low by the time Matt pulled into Judge Harriet Hargrove's brick home on a quiet, tree-lined street. Matt killed the engine and grabbed the updated affidavit. This wasn't how he wanted to end the day, but after finding Ed Black's body buried in McKnight's backyard, there wasn't a choice. He rang the bell. After a pause, the porch light flicked on, and the front door creaked open. Judge Hargrove stood in the doorway. Her expression soured the moment she recognized him. "Agent Barry," she said, "this better be necessary." "It is, Your Honor," Matt said, holding up the affidavit. "We need an expanded search warrant for the McKnight property." She sighed, stepped back, and motioned him inside. Matt followed her to a small writing desk near the front window. "The first warrant covered only the exterior," he said as she sat. "We need access to the house and the barn." "And why couldn't this wait until morning?" she asked, not looking at him as she pulled a pen from a ceramic cup. "Because we found Ed Black's body buried in the backyard." That got her full attention. "You're certain?" Positive. Judge Hargrove nodded. I'm signing this based solely on the recovery of human remains. No fishing expeditions, Agent Barry. Understood, Your Honor. She scrawled her signature across the bottom of the warrant, then handed it over without ceremony. This authorizes a full search of the residence and all outbuildings. Stay within the bounds. The barn doors creaked open under Matt's hand. Behind him, Joe's voice and the shuffle of officers faded as he stepped inside and flipped the switch. Overhead, fluorescent lights buzzed to life. The place was surprisingly tidy. A workbench stretched along one wall, tools hung neatly on pegboards. The shelves opposite were stacked with labeled boxes, garden supplies, and hardware. Matt walked through the barn, scanning methodically. Near the center of the barn, he paused. A patch of concrete, maybe 3 feet across, caught the overhead light differently than the rest. He circled the area, then turned to the shelving. Garden hoses, stacked clay pots, fertilizer bags, then something that didn't fit. A hunting knife, serrated, 8-inch blade. It sat on a middle shelf. The metal was stained a deep, dried brown. Matt made a face. All that was missing was a sign that said, "Bloody hunting knife, plain view." Matt didn't touch it. He pulled his phone from his pocket and called Joe. "Yeah," Joe answered. "Get to the barn. Found something." 2 minutes later, Joe ducked inside. Matt pointed at the knife. "Blood, most likely. And there's a clean spot on the floor over there." Joe knelt for a closer look without touching either. His mouth tightened. "Jesus. Anything in the house?" Matt asked. Joe shook his head. "Not yet." They stood there for a moment. "You buying this?" Joe asked finally. "No." Joe nodded. "Neither am I. Why kill a kid in your barn, bury him in your backyard, tip the cops off with a tape, and then leave the murder weapon sitting on a shelf?" Matt's eyes stayed on the knife. "Better question. Whose blood is it?" Joe frowned. "Black's body didn't show an obvious cause of death, remember? Missing eyes, yeah, but nothing else. Could be his blood," Matt said. "Could be someone else's." "Someone is fucking with us," Joe said. "I think we need that knife on a lab table," Matt said, "and McKnight in an interview room." "What else?" Joe asked. "I want to talk to Swift again." "The school cop." "Why?" "Because he lied to us." Joe nodded. "All right, first things first. Let's pick up McKnight." Matt and Joe went back to the house and found Reed McKnight sitting in the kitchen with his wife, Kay. Matt took the lead. "Mr. McKnight," he said, "we need to talk." McKnight leaned back in his chair, arms crossed. "What now?" "We found Ed Black's body." "The kid who assaulted Penny?" Matt nodded. "Arrest his sorry ass. He's trespassing." "He was buried in your backyard," Matt said. "Did he suffer?" "I hope so," McKnight said. "Reed, stop it," Kay McKnight said. Reed glanced at her and then nodded. "Sorry, I had nothing to do with it. Or the Merrick kid. But I'm not going to pretend to be all broken up about it either." "Fair enough," Matt said. "There's more." "Always is," McKnight said. "What?" "We also found something in the barn. A bloody hunting knife." Kay McKnight spoke. "Do you think my husband is stupid enough to murder a kid, hide the body in his backyard, and then leave a bloody hunting knife in the barn?" Matt shook his head. "I don't think either one of you is stupid." Joe pushed off the wall. "Then help us figure out who is." McKnight's laugh was brittle. "You expect me to trust that?" "No," Matt said, "but I do expect you to act like a man with nothing to hide." McKnight's eyes narrowed. "Am I under arrest?" "Number, come downtown, answer our questions. The more you cooperate, the faster we clear your name." A muscle twitched in McKnight's cheek. "You cops have fucked me every time." "Don't include me in that," Matt said. "I have conditions," McKnight said. "Let's hear them," Matt said. "You ask your questions. No sitting around in an interview room while some junior G-man strokes his meat at the other end of a camera watching me." "Reed," Kay said. "That's actually the FBI," Matt said. "What?" McKnight asked. "Junior G-men who sit around and stroke their meat." "Whatever," McKnight said. "We have a deal," Matt said.